I'm Jason. I started Commusoft back in 2006 with the intention of transforming the way field service companies manage their businesses. Today's show is all around the innovation of location, and I'm joined by Robert from what3words. Welcome to another episode of Success in the Field, where we explore the world of field service and highlight best practices for achieving success. It's been a while since we recorded an episode, and this time we're focusing on a company that are doing interesting things in the location space. You may have come across them on TV or even read about them and how they're helping the emergency services respond to queries faster, ultimately saving lives. Improving the customer journey is at the heart of what we do here at Commusoft, so it's always interesting to talk to companies who are disrupting traditional industries and ideas. Welcome to the show, Robert. Let's kick things off. So let's start by introducing yourself and a little bit about what3words.
Sure, Jason. Hello, my name is Robert Novakov. I work in the business development team at what3words. I deal with partnerships within many industries, but most recently I've been specializing in e-commerce and field services. So about what3words, in a nutshell, what3words is a very simple way to talk about precise location. We figured that traditional addresses weren't good enough. They weren't leading people to the right place. They weren't built for the future, and for some places, they didn't even exist at all. So what we did is we created a global addressing system by dividing the entire surface of the Earth into 3 meter by 3 meter squares, and then assigning 3 unique words from the dictionary to each square. So for example, field count soap is the 3-word address or what3words address of the London HQ of our office. So precisely to that doorstep. We have a free app and a website where people can access and find their 3-word address, but we also can be integrated into pretty much anything. So a car, emergency service response system, or a booking form. And I've been dealing with field services over the past several months to improve the customer experience and help engineers cut time in finding the job address.
Amazing. Do you feel like you're a disruptor then in this niche?
We do feel like we're a disruptor in our niche. The problem that we solve is of global relevance, and the solution itself is something that we haven't really done before or no one has done before. So even in the best addressed areas of the world, the traditional addressing systems that we use don't fit the requirements of the on-demand services that we're so accustomed to nowadays. So we order food all the time, we get Ubers, we are used to same-day delivery, sometimes even same-day home repairs. And we have all this amazing technology that makes these things happen, but addresses are such a basic and overlooked part of the modern day. So even if we look at the stats, there are 4 billion people in the world that live without a formal address. In the UK, if you zoom in specifically, 3 million properties are not on the Royal Mail list. That's like 10% of the properties in the UK. And then you look at use cases like new builds. You have a new building that has to get their address confirmed by the local council, or the street has to be established. And in that buffer period, how do you get services to that area? How do you get plumbing systems installed? How do you get a new kitchen fitted if the street isn't formalized? So that's why what3words is disruptive. We try to change the way that people think and talk about precise locations. And we took something that's commonly used by everyone, which is addresses, and then we simply adapted it to the modern day demands of people.
Super interesting, because in actual fact, every time I go to my sisters who live in Wapping and we get a takeaway, one of those guilty pleasures, the same thing happens every single time, which is the guy turns up, buzzes her door, and she has this app that basically tells her that someone's at her front door downstairs in her sort of apartment block. And it's always the wrong door. It's always round the corner, up the street, because the block is an address. And there's like 3 or 4 entrances. So naturally what happens is they knock up there. It's not the right one. Hey, go around the corner. He starts walking around, gets to the next door. No, it's not that one. Keep going. And eventually he finds it. But obviously it's taken him at least 5-6 minutes to actually go from what effectively is arriving to walking through the door and going upstairs and dropping food off. And you mentioned addresses, properties not having address, same property. They've just had an announcement saying they're actually going to change all the addresses. The road names are changing. The flat numbers are all changing. So again, there's going to go through a period now of confusion where some people have got updated data sets. Some people don't. If you haven't got the latest data from Royal Mail, then you're going to maybe referencing their old address. Whereas if you've got newer data, then you're going to have that as well. Not to mention the fact that all this postcode data, at least in the UK, is proprietary. It's owned by the Royal Mail, and you have to purchase that data from the Royal Mail if you want to gain access to it. So I think when we had this conversation previously, what's lovely about this is that 3 meter by 3 meter square never changes, right? Doesn't matter what's going on in the world, doesn't matter what politics are going on, what councils are changing, roads are changing, that 3 meter by that 3 meter never changes. So it's a really simple, consistent way of sort of referencing ultimately where your front door is.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly correct.
So what do you think your relationship is between sort of your industry in location and the field service industry?
I mean, fundamentally, our industry is tech, and what we do is geolocation. But it's actually important to note that we don't strictly belong to one industry. We work within any industry that deals with getting things or people from point A to point B. And field services deals with the latter, right? It deals with getting people from point A to point B. An engineer is given a customer address, and they need to get from where they currently are, point A, to where the customer is, point B, to then complete that job. So that's one basic commonality. Another common ground is actually the adoption of tech within the field services industry. And you know this better than we do, but for the past 10 years, more and more companies are turning towards tech in that space to get rid of inefficiencies in their core business. So a field service specializes in the service itself, right? In installing a boiler, in fixing a leak, in dealing with a power cut. So anything that takes time away from the engineer to be able to do that core job is seen as inefficient for the business. So take a look at an example from our partner, which is Bits, Bobs, and All Jobs. So when we first spoke to them, they articulated an issue of their engineers not finding the right building entrance, similar to what you said with the Wapping example. So now they're able to collect 3-word addresses at their booking form exactly at the point of sale, and then engineers are able to navigate using the app to find the location. So that then takes away from that uncertainty of finding the address and allows the engineers to focus on the job at hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting, when I had a conversation internally here with some of our team about what3words when it sort of first came up, was that it sort of is interesting because it's not just the traditional expectation of the use case, which is, where's the entrance? I've got a big building, or I've got a big school, or a big factory, and it's technically on several roads even. Where's the bit that I need to go to? Where's the access? Where's the site manager's office that I need to go to first? But it gets expanded into, where I've got, I don't know, huge factories or huge buildings, commercial spaces, power stations, even bigger, these bigger quarries even, where we've talked to clients where, the distance between the address, the official Google Maps, this is where the dot is, and where you actually need to be, could be miles, could be literally miles away. I know I had a conversation with a company that did tree surgery for councils. And obviously the bit they were going to work on might be 4 miles away from the sort of traditional address. And obviously that posed quite a big problem because, yes, you could turn up to then be told actually where you need to be is all the way over there, which again is just a huge amount of wasted time and just confusion. Because if that site officer is not there to tell you, and you sort of, you may do the wrong job, you may do the wrong job on the wrong part of the building, it just gets very confusing. So I think having that level of precision can be very powerful.
Yeah, you're right with that. And actually we work within the B2B space too in terms of deliveries, and quarries and typical and large sites. That's where we have multiple use cases, not just the delivery aspect of service or goods, but also health and safety. There's signs of 3-word addresses for then the employees to be able to quickly communicate if there's an emergency. That's also another use case.
Where does your product, though, come into play when it comes to the end customer? Because we've talked about the field service businesses and sort of some of the benefits, some of the things they're getting out of this. I mean, I know you've done a lot of sort of B2C style communication and education and advertising. Sort of how does it benefit them? How is it affecting them?
I mean, if you look at the field service space particularly, right? So in the journey of booking a service, what3words address comes exactly at the point where the customer would use their traditional address, either give it over the phone or input it. So we're not here to replace any traditional systems like postcodes. We're just there to add that degree of specificity. And then be able to get rid of long-winded directions, whether they're over the phone or in a special field, along the lines of, turn left after the second blue sign and then continue for 200 meters till you hit the black gate kind of thing. So that's where we come into play from the customer experience perspective. And if a field service is able to collect 3-word addresses at a booking form, then they're able to give the customer a peace of mind that the service will arrive at the right place. So actually, we compared this with a delivery partner of ours in London, and we compared 20 jobs that are with street addresses and 20 using what3words addresses. And for the street addresses, for the 20 jobs, 7 times the customer was called to be asked for directions, whereas for the what3words jobs, there was 0 calls to the customer. So that's an instant improvement in terms of customer experience and sort of easing the customer from responsibilities. Another interesting stat actually from the same comparison was the variability in time it took for the driver to find the customer when they arrived at the location. So similar again to what you said with the Wapping example. With street addresses, it took anywhere between 0 and 17 minutes to get to the customer after arriving in the area. Whereas with the what3words, it was between 0 and 4 minutes. So basically what that allows a business to do is allows to decrease that volatility with finding the customer in the last mile, and then be able to predict more accurate time slots for when the service or the product will arrive at the location.
And I think that's quite interesting, especially when we come to kind of Q4, usually quite a busy quarter for field service businesses in our experience. You know, the number of jobs that run through the Commusoft platform in the next couple of months go through the roof. You know, we see more jobs put through from now almost into the new year through January into February. That you know, the number of jobs engineers are being asked to do per day increases, you know, especially in things like the heating industry where boilers break. Now people turn them back on and you naturally have to go out and do these types of jobs. So I think, you know, if you can save 5, 10, 15 minutes an appointment, then naturally that's going to lead you to be able to complete the 6, 7, 8, 9 appointments I've seen some businesses try and fit into a single day in that day without going into sort of early and even late evenings in some cases. What I think is interesting though as well is that we've done a little bit of business in the UAE, the Middle East, and I've been to the Middle East quite a few times over the years. And the way they do addresses is amazing. It's usually go past the Marriott, turn left, or it's right by the Hilton or something. You know, it's almost like their entire navigation system is based on like hotels. You know, where key landmarks are, and it's sort of it's the third road behind the whatever hotel. So I think even though countries even like the Middle East, and I'm sure there are, you know, as you said, more rural areas will have slightly different but similar types of problems. Instead of saying go down that lane, it's the third right, it doesn't really have a name, and we're 6 houses down. You know, you can then give that level of specificity. So for an entire country, you know, where they don't necessarily have really solid infrastructure in terms of street addresses, it's something that really just sits on top of the world. It's a service that's there that they can just consume straight away without almost any additional work or additional mapping or anything like that. It is just there.
Yeah, that's right. And actually interesting that you say you also work in the Middle East, because we have a lot of work in the Middle East ourselves. And for example, Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Oman, these areas are very familiar to us, and they exactly deal with addresses like you said. And I was looking after the India market earlier this year, and there is the exact same situation where they have long descriptions and the formal address is sort of behind the bank and turned to the left. But you spoke about the country level, and actually we work extensively in Mongolia, where actually what3words is sort of the standard for communicating locations. So we work with the Mongol Post, and they're very Mongolia as a nation, they're a very nomadic nation, so they tend to move a lot as a population. They tend to change addresses all the time. So it becomes very hard to locate properties and people in need. So one of our biggest markets where we have a highest adoption is actually Mongolia, because of this sort of lack of formal system to begin with.
Yeah, I love how what is effectively quite a simple technology, and for most of us, when you sit there and think about it, you're thinking, well, it's just an easier way to get to an address, actually has a much wider both business and general social benefit that can help people.
Yeah. The objective is to be a global addressing system. So that's what we headed towards, and we want to make it accessible for anybody, regardless whether you're a business individual, whether you speak English or Mongolian for that matter.
Okay, so we've obviously talked a little bit about how you are working in lots of different industries, but do you think there's a common trend when it comes to companies towards the end customer?
I think there are commonalities between companies and their attitude towards the end customer. One thing I've observed personally with all the companies that we work with is that they tend to have a shared goal, which is whether you're Mercedes Benz or whether you're Hermes Careers or Biz Bobs and Odd Jobs, what makes these companies innovative is their ability to add value to the customer that goes beyond their core product or service. So it's not just about being able to pick the task at hand. It's also just about what makes a field service company stand out is actually being able to look at all the steps that lead up to the moment where an engineer is at the property and being able to predict any pain point that the customer will face and then put the right measures in place. So that's why our customers or our partners identify with what3words, because it's a simple way that you can add extra value. And then what3words just becomes another tool in the toolbox that you can use to better your customer experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because we preach all the time about customer journeys. And for us, a customer experience is a mixture of all of the little journeys. You know, when you're booking, how do you treat the customer when you're booking? Do you send a confirmation? How do they feel between the point of confirmation and the point of arrival? Are they anxious? Are they nervous about what time he's coming? Have you given an all-day slot or a much more, half a day slot or a 2-hour window? And I think what's interesting here is that all of these journeys, and what3words obviously plays a major part in the location part of that journey, leads the end customer to have a certain type of experience, whether it's positive or negative. But the way we look at it here at Commusoft is you don't necessarily create a good customer experience. You refine your customer journeys, and that creates a customer experience. And I think, 100% agree that ultimately, as businesses, we all want our customers to have great experiences. And it's important then for us to work on those individual journeys to make sure that that all comes together at the end.
Exactly. I completely agree. And being able to predict those pain points that the customer will face and actually anticipate them beforehand.
So we've had a conversation about some of the growth areas and some of the promising areas here, but what are some of the core challenges that what3words have come across when developing this technology?
I'd say the main challenge is that you need an ecosystem. And that's why we've developed it for the entire world. And every 3 meter by 3 meter in the world has a unique 3-word address. But the way we deal with countries in different markets is very systematic. We want to create an ecosystem where what3words can be used in many use cases. So then it becomes a standard. And that's why that's one of the challenges that you need to enter from different areas, really. You need to look at emergency services first, because that's really where there's a clear use case where you are saving people's lives and cutting response time. Then you need to increase adoption and ask businesses to speak about their what3words feature and how it helps them improve their business. So that is one of the challenges in terms of creating an ecosystem and then asking businesses to sort of communicate to their customers. But just as much as it's a challenge for us, it is also something that we're familiar with and something that we learned how to replicate in different areas so that it became somewhat formulaic by now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know you guys were on the news recently with some sort of really positive news stories around emergency services where people were literally saying, these are my what3words, and the emergency service were able to get there quicker and actually deal with that emergency much faster. So I think word is spreading, and I think more consumers are starting to download the app and starting to use it. So it looks like a promising future.
Right, yeah. And we want to make sure that it's not restricted to people having the app. So often we actually train businesses on how to get a 3-word address from new users themselves, so people who are not familiar with the system. And yeah, that's something that we also have to get accustomed to. Not everybody will have the app. In an ideal world, everybody does and knows the 3-word address. But some of the challenges is actually how do you navigate in that middle ground where people some people know, some people don't, and how do you make sure that everybody can benefit from that system regardless of your knowledge of it?
And what does success mean to you then? I mean, we've had a conversation really a little bit about sort of what the future holds in terms of areas that you're working with and past successes, but where does what does success mean to what3words over the next couple of years?
So the ultimate goal is to be a standard of communicating location. So for everybody to be able to use it at any point. Actually, our slogan, so to say, is helping everybody talk about everywhere. So success to us really is just seeing all the different ways that what3words makes the day-to-day life easier for people. Whether it's, we love hearing about individuals using it on their community run. We love hearing about a local plumbing service in Lincoln, finding it helpful for rural jobs. And also we love hearing about global car companies adopting it for precise navigation. All these things matter to us, and seeing any new use of what3words just is another example of our mission becoming a success, which is helping everyone talk about everywhere.
Thanks for joining us today, Rob, and talking a little bit about what3words and the innovation around location.
Thank you, Jason. Likewise, it's been an absolute pleasure being here, and good luck.
I love how simple what3words is. It's helping a huge number of people and businesses get to their right location as efficiently as possible. As Rob mentioned, there's a free app and a website, and I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check it out. We hope you enjoyed this chat. We're planning to create more content just like this, as well as our usual episodes where we break down common challenges field service businesses have and ways to overcome them. As ever, find us online by searching for Commusoft, and feel free to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.